It's Power Hour LSU.
PHL, extra little bit of swag, an extra little bit of taste.
Yeah. Man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter,
Let's freaking go. These are the shows that honestly concern me. But at the same time, it also excites me whenever we talk about a difficult subject, which includes, should this person remain as the head coach of this team? And that's what we're going to discuss today with BETH TORINA. If you're listening to this via podcast, iTunes, Spotify, please give it a 5-star review. If you love me on social media, at Carter the Power is my personal, at Power Hour LSU. No matter who you are, feel free to let me know your good, honest opinion on BETH TORINA. We are starting an hour earlier. I have a very special evening lined up, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, I believe Scott Woodward isn't even thinking about this. I'm serious. I could be totally wrong on this. But BETH TORINA will be the head softball coach next year for LSU. Now, that isn't the point. You guys are allowed to come here and express your opinions on LSU sports, whether it's good, whether it's bad. Obviously, we mostly do football. That's not what we're discussing. We honestly have no idea whether or not LSU is thinking about making a decision when it comes to their head softball coach. But what I can tell you is privately in our PHL Discord, there are a pretty high amount of you that do not believe that BETH TORINA is someone that could get us over the hump. There's a lot of you on LSU Twitter that believe BETH TORINA cannot get LSU over the hump. And the Stanford series started off with a bang, a run rule versus one of the best pitchers in the country, and it ended with a run rule versus, once again, one of the best pitchers in the country. And LSU starting the season 23-0 and not even having a national seed is something that concerns a lot of you. Now, what I will do, as I have done quite a bit, is defend BETH TORINA. I believe she should remain the head coach. That is my personal opinion. A lot of you probably don't feel this way. Okay? But Doug makes a really good point. Look, Carter, you have to factor in that the SEC is only getting better. It's not just Oklahoma, Doug. The number one team in the country, who BETH TORINA beat this year, Texas, is coming to the SEC as well. These are arguably the two best softball programs in the country, and that does not include Patrick Murphy in Alabama, who many people would consider to be the best coach in the sport, as he once again got Alabama to the College World Series. Tennessee is in the conference. Tennessee has a lot of softball recent tradition. They were the number 3 overall seed nationally. I believe BETH TORINA should remain the head coach. I don't know softball as well as some of you, though. Skipper is someone who actually sits and watches every single pitch of every single game. I am not that person. I wish I could. I wish I did, but I don't. Here's my thing, and I get in a lot of trouble with this take because it goes against how we view quite a bit of American sports culture. We only care about what you do in the playoffs. You know, that's just how it works. What you do in the postseason is everything. And I am just not that person. That's just not who I am as a sports fan. I believe we tend to overrate what happens in postseasons. And I do believe BETH TORINA will get LSU back to the College World Series at some point. I understand we have not been back since 2017. I totally get it. But 2018, you reach the Super Regional. 2019, you reach the Super Regional. 2020, no postseason because of the pandemic. 2021, another Super Regional. 2022, 2023, you lose in the regionals both years. And then in 2024, you lose in the Super Regional yet again. I understand that LSU started the season 23-0. I get it. And it's kind of harsh to not go any further than just that. You start the season 23-0, and then you end the season, 12-12, basically? 11-11 conference record. I'm a little shocked that LSU didn't get the national seed, but that's what happened. They did not get a national seed. Does the result get flipped if Stanford has to come to LSU and LSU is able to play at home? I don't know. I do think a lot of bad luck was involved. I do think game 3 was very controversial with the ball clearly hitting the runner, and it should have just been a 2-0 game, and then it ended up being a 7-0 game, and then that was it. I just think BETH should stay. I really do. And there's a financial component to this as well. You know, there's a lot of things that are changing in the world of college sports, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with all the non-revenue generating sports. So I don't think it's going anywhere, but I do think you have to take into account how much that is changing out there in the world of college softball. I understand, though, that Scott Woodward is a big game hunter, and he likes to go out and make the sexy hire. I understand in the past that there has been rumors of LSU being connected to other elite coaches. I totally get that. And I totally get LSU fans seeing a consistent string of results that look the exact same. And, well, they are the exact same here. 7th in the SEC, 6th in the SEC, 5th in the SEC, 2nd in the SEC, 5th in the SEC, 6th and 6th in the SEC yet again. So, look, I totally get it. Now, you want to talk about a spicy story. I remember this, the Patrick Murphy story, that LSU had him and he went back to Alabama. That would have been something else. And he probably is the best coach that's out there. But whatever the case may be, I'm fine with keeping BETH TORINA as our head coach. Look, you're not going to have the absolute tip-top coach in every single sport. You're not going to. You're not going to have a top 5 coach in every single sport that you coach, unless you're willing, to spend high dollar amounts in every single sport like LSU does. But you have top 3 women's basketball coach, you have top 3 baseball coach, top 3 football coach. You want to argue top 5 for BK? You could do that as well. It's hard to have the absolute best coach in every single sport. I would just keep going at it with BETH TORINA. She had her best start she's ever had at LSU. So that's how I feel. Maybe I am off on that, but feel free to correct me. Now, Jay Johnson, what an interesting situation we have here. LSU has a decision to make with who they want to pitch versus North Carolina. I am of the belief that you go into every single game thinking that you need to win that game. I am not the biggest believer in saving pitchers unless you are, of course, going up against an absolutely terrible, terrible squad. But pick your ace versus Wofford and see what happens after that. Obviously, the goal is to beat North Carolina and advance through the regional. Obviously, there is a backwards way that LSU could end up hosting a super regional. And this has been shared throughout the world today that LSU has the third best odds, according to the sports book, to actually win the College World Series. Now, do I believe LSU is the third best team in college baseball? I'm not smart enough to tell you that. But just because the odds says LSU is the third best team doesn't necessarily mean that Vegas believes that LSU has the third best chance to win the College World Series. LSU is obviously a casual fans team, right? There are plenty of you diehard LSU baseball fans that are out there. But nationally, college baseball just started getting offered to sports books, right? We had the huge controversy with this last year. So casual bettors are going to come in knowing that LSU is the best program, knowing that they're red hot, knowing that they have a lot of this postseason magic. And the sports books are just protecting against these recreational bettors that will heavily bet LSU to win it all. So that's part of it. You know, the sports books are just, if you were to give, you know, LSU at a super long shot odds to win it all, like, let's say like they're really the 20th best team according to most power rankings. We want to put them in the top 5 because if I, who know nothing about college baseball, see LSU 20th in anything, I'm going to go bet them if I know they're in the tournament. So I don't necessarily think that Vegas is representative of the actual sport of college baseball. But it is interesting that they do view LSU as a potential top 5 team to go and actually win the entire College World Series. They're hot. They're hot. Now, you guys tell me, what would be your plan for Wofford? Are you pitching jump from the jump? What do you want to do? You let me know, PHL Nation. As we welcome in Tyler, I still have your hat. I have to wear headphones tonight because Haley's actually live on a different channel tonight. We say hi to Skipper, Matt, who's a patron. Good to see you, Mr. Matt, Tyler, Cole. Once again, special 7 o'clock tip-off here because I do have another engagement later on tonight. Now, I want to talk a little bit here about LSU football. So they're doing this huge recruiting event in Nashville for On3, all right, which is like the big recruiting site. And as always, I should mention this before we continue. First $20 super chat, you're getting this, and this is a facsimile auto photo of Thad Moss, who just retired. One of the LSU tight end goats. First $20 super chat is getting that in the mail. Now, I want to chat a little bit about this event. So Harlan Berry and Bryce Underwood are both there, and I understand they're committed. I get it, but I have never seen 2 more committed guys at a high-profile event than these guys. They're there with LSU hats, LSU chains. They're going to LSU. It would be a shocking turn of events if either one of them were not to pick LSU. And what tends to happen is we will focus all the time, and I mean all the time, on the players who aren't committed than the players who are. Okay? So I say this because I wanted to single out Bryce Underwood and Harlan Berry because they're locked in. They're doing the right thing. They're coming to LSU. And obviously, full disclosure, Bryce Underwood was kind enough to join our program earlier this year at the spring game. So I will always be a Bryce Underwood fan. I'm always a fan of people that choose to spend their valuable time with us. Harlan Berry, the invite is out to you as well to join PHL because you are a beast. And I am interested to see if LSU uses him as a slot receiver or an outside receiver, hell, early in his career, because he is gifted as a wide receiver. You just put the football in his hands and good things happen. Not the biggest guy, you guys know. I like my football players thick, but he is really, really gifted. Shady McCoy style with the football in his hands. Okay? Now, I say that before I mention DeCorian Moore's name at all. And DeCorian Moore said LSU is back into the mix. So, I will say this. DeCorian Moore is a very, very, very special football player. He's really good. Now, it's early. And on my own personal grading scale, the guys that I have seen in this recruiting class in terms of wide receivers, DeCorian Moore is the best. I think Cam Coleman would have been the number one receiver in this class. And Jeremiah Smith is a real deal at Ohio State. But I think those two players are better prospects than DeCorian Moore. But DeCorian Moore is special. He is special. And obviously he decommits from LSU. And you know, I saw Shea tweet this out. He said, hey, well, DeCorian Moore it says LSU is back in the mix. And this would be my thought process if I was Brian Kelly. The first thing is when DeCorian Moore decommitted, I said, I don't think LSU's out of it. I don't. Because he's close with Bryce Underwood. And why wouldn't you keep another option open? That's only good for you. But my thing is, it just depends how much you really, really want him. You don't have an infinite amount of time or resources to go get everyone. And the one thing I don't want to happen is us get back in it and lose again. I'm not saying it's not worth trying. I am pointing out, though, that I don't want to get strung along here. I really, really, really don't. Because, look, there's other receivers we can go after. There's other priority recruits we can go get. So I would love DeCorian Moore to be an LSU Tiger. I would really love it. And I would welcome him back with open arms. But I think there is only so much like chasing you can really do at this point. And look, if I was a 5-star recruit, I would be doing the same thing. I'm serious. Like, I wouldn't like be a total man. I know nothing about the inside of the daily recruiting process. But if I was a 5-star recruit, I would keep all my options open. I would, because then, you know, it's just open bidding season. Whatever the case may be, it is newsworthy, though, that he does say we are back in it. So I'm down. Now, let's go to Skipper. He is the LSU softball expert. He says, I think up until Saturday and Sunday, she had a good shot of staying because she was coaching really good. But with that said, Skipper believes she needs to go. So let's take a look at the poll question. Should BETH TORINA be fired? It is 50-50. Now, I took a risk, especially changing up the order of things here, going a little bit earlier. Doing an LSU softball show. My analytics tell me don't do an LSU softball show. So, I believe this show was very important. I was hurt, distraught after what happened on Sunday. Things started so smoothly. They really, really, really did. but it is what it is at this point, and we all move on. Tomorrow, I will be back on with AYS at 10 a.m., but we get back to your comments. What's up, Lane? It's good to see you. Justin, what's up? Cole says Texas fans ain't chirping that Moore's in their stable lately. Interesting. So is this an Oregon thing? Is this an Ohio State thing? I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. But here's my final thought on the jump thing for LSU baseball. I think Jay should pitch who he feels gives him the best chance of winning now. Okay. Last year there was a lot, and I mean a lot, of discussion with who the starter should be last year with Paul Skeens. And I get it. I totally get it. Okay. But for me, I just don't think you should overthink it. I really, really, really don't. Okay. Now, I want to pull this up here. I don't know anything about Wofford other than their nickname are the Terriers. I don't even know where Wofford is located. Okay. Y'all better buckle up for this Wofford team. Third in the NCAA in batting average with the .340 batting average. 26th in the NCAA in doubles. They have 7 players hitting over .320, 5 players hitting over .360. There were 23 Marshall Tool, .383 batting average, .469 OBP, 93 hits. Ugh. Marshall Tool. I think we'll be fine. But we'll see. Skipper right here. She should have lost her mind on the first bank when they didn't make the call when the ball hit the runner on the leg. The thing I don't get about that is on the replay, and this might be my last softball thing, but if we get a super chat, I'll go back into it. It's fine. On the replay, the ball clearly changed directions. So the runner should have been out. And it did cost LSU 5 runs. Okay. 5 runs. Now, I digress. One more thing I'll say about regional action, and I know I went on this for forever on Sunday. This is the best postseason that we have in sports. It really is. Like, the reason why I say it is, and I watch more March Madness than I do regional, but I like college basketball more than I like baseball. I only watch college baseball. I have a good friend that coaches at the JUCO level. College baseball is just so much better than the MLB. The metal bats, the culture, the teams, the brands, and the regionals, man. The freaking regionals just kick ass. Now, there is Kyle Peterson. He went on a lengthy rant about changing the regional format, that they need to stretch it out to 72 teams. And he actually made some pretty salient points. And I understand where he's coming from because he wants to stretch the format out so these lower tier teams don't get crapped on by the committee. Aaron Fitt of D1 Baseball had a very interesting point. He said, look, folks, the chancellors and ADs that were on the committee that had their schools on the bubble all got in. Florida got in, ECU. I'm not smart enough to know all the seating and stuff. But basically, he said, hey, a lot of schools got screwed and there was clear favoritism in all this stuff. So if expanding the tournament means we're getting a lot of these smaller schools in, I'm open to it. And you guys know, I am anti-expansion when it comes to postseason tournaments. But these small schools get screwed. They get absolutely screwed. And what is very interesting is two things. All right. I vaguely knew this person, but there's a guy named Will Davis who used to coach and I believe played at LSU as well. And if you're on Twitter, you saw a high amount of LSU baseball legends like pleading for the committee to put Lamar baseball in. I had a friend play quarterback at Lamar, but they were pleading to put Lamar into the tournament. That's where Will Davis coaches now. And they had the second most wins in baseball. They swept Oklahoma and they got crapped on. They left him out. Lamar. And this is the one thing I'll say about the selection committee in college baseball. In all actuality, in college basketball, the selection committee, their job isn't as important as the baseball selection committee. Because in college basketball, if you're doing a tournament to determine who wins the championship, well, we know historically there's only a certain amount of schools that can actually win the title, right? We see teams go on magical runs for sure. And I'm not saying the committee doesn't have an important job, but in college baseball, legit, anyone can win anything. We saw it with Fresno State. We saw it with Ole Miss a few years ago. We saw it with freaking Stony Brook. Stony Brook. Now, they didn't win the Natty, but Stony Brook. Stony freaking Brook. I don't ever want LSU to schedule Stony Brook again. So these regionals matter a hell like a lot. Like Wofford could legit not only beat us but win the whole damn thing. I still don't know where the Wofford Terriers are located. I still don't know. Okay, so I'll be honest. I believe that I am pro college baseball expansion because I want the small schools to get in because they can actually go win it. Can't really say that in basketball. You sure as hell can't say it about football. But Lamar got screwed. Will Davis is his name. I vaguely knew him when I was in Baton Rouge. He got screwed. So, Will, I don't know you that well. I got your back. You got screwed. And the thing that is absolutely hilarious about it was he got screwed over by a Florida Gator. The Florida Gators got in. Now, before we get to this first break, we do have a new LSU football player who joined the team this past weekend. Is he any good? Can he get LSU over the top? Does his position gain importance? We'll talk about that coming up. I do believe this, though. I do believe it. Part of why you guys hate BETH TORINA so much, and I don't think it's hate. You guys don't care as long as she wins, right? But I think there are quite a few of you that do not like BETH TORINA for this reason. She is a Florida Gator.
I think joy and happiness and doing things you like is important.
My favorite thing is sports cards. When I'm not on YouTube, I am building my collection. And when I started, I wish there was a sports card strategy show.
He wasn't necessarily going to be a first-round pick before all this Heisman buzz. Now they're talking about him being a top 5 pick.
Paul Hickey and the team at nooffseason.com personally helped build my Jaden Daniels collection, and they're looking to do the same for you. Just check them out on social media or nooffseason.com.
All right, LSU's got a new player. His name is Blake Ashendorf. I don't think it's pronounced Ashendorf. It's Blake Ashendorf. Comes over from Louisiana Tech. Now, he is a Minnesota native. Okay. He started his career at Minnesota State University Moorhead before transferring to Louisiana Tech in 2020. He might have had one more stop before that, whatever the case may be. Ashendorf went 3 years without logging any stats at Louisiana Tech before punting in 2023. Okay. Eichendorff comes in. He's going to compete with Peyton Todd. And Peyton Todd doesn't have anyone punting against him. Okay. And Peyton Todd obviously struggled when it comes to consistency. And Eichendorff, 48 yards per punt in Conference USA, ranked third nationally last year. Now, I believe Eichendorff was a class of 2018 recruit or 2019, either or. So basically, Josh Williams was a class of 2019 recruit, Eichendorff class of 2018. It's interesting. Okay. So I'll be honest. I have very, very, very little faith in Peyton Todd at this point. And it hurts me to say it because he is a Louisiana native. Hell, he's a North Louisiana punter. But Peyton Todd came in with so much hype. And he is an athlete. He played even some linebacker at West Monroe. But, you know, if you're a superstar punter, the good thing about punting at the Division I collegiate Power 5 level is you control almost everything. Okay? There's nothing that affects you as a punter. All right? Everyone out there should have decent protection, right? Like if you're a defensive lineman, you're a 5-star, you might not be able to live up to your expectations because you're in the wrong scheme. That goes for any position. Kicker, it's important to have a good snap, good hold, and all that. And that is the case at punter, but it's not as important, right? The fact that it's not clear at this point that he could have run away with this punting job is a concern. It is a major, major, major concern. So you guys know I've been banging the table for this. LSU has got an elite deep snapper in Slade Roy. And yes, I am very biased in saying that because Slade, of course, is a PHL icon with his 3 appearances on the show. LSU has got a really good kicker in Ramos, all right, who has been clutch, had a game-winning kick versus Arkansas, had the big game-sealing kick on the road versus Florida. He's mostly been good in my estimation. Does he have the absolute biggest leg? No, even though, you know, his TikTok is filled with kicks, him just blasting things, but I don't feel he definitely doesn't have a Cade York bazooka, but he's good. I am perfectly fine with Ramos being the kicker. And then, of course, you have Nathan Dybert and Aaron Burrell coming in, and Burrell could push for multiple starting special teams roles. But I do feel LSU needed to go make a move at punter, and they did so. Now, what's very interesting, and I've read a few different things on this as far as like college, as far as Blake Eichendorff's situation, he could be a preferred walk-on. So he couldn't, there is a chance that he's not even taken up a scholarship. So Pegasus wants to know what happened to the Australian pipeline of punters. That's a good question. That's a good question. Okay, let's see. What else did I want to get? Oh, yes. Didn't write this in my outline tonight. But okay. Obviously, there are a lot of things happening in Destin. And that's honestly where most of our discussion should be. The league meetings in Destin is arguably the most important SEC event of the year outside of the actual football games. And obviously, you know, there's a lot of discussion happening here. One thing I would keep an eye out for is the roster limit of college teams. Okay. I think 85 is where they're going to end up. But for me, we'll see. I miss the traditional walk on now. That might be outlawed pretty soon. It might be outlawed. Unless, of course, you can come up with the rule saying if you are a walk on, you can only play X amount of games per year. So you don't have this situation where, a guy's not on scholarship, but you're covering everything via NIL and you can't have like uneven rosters, if that makes sense. I think that is something in the pipeline. In fact, it's something I do think will be put into place within the next year or so, but we'll see. But there's a lot of discussions about collective bargaining agreement, what's going to happen with NIL and stuff like that. I just don't think, though, like people truly understand how crazy it is that we're finally to the point where schools are just going to be paying players. Like, it's legal now. You can just do it. You sign up here, you're getting this. It is amazing. Now, I want you to type Y for yes, type N for no. The idea that players are being directly compensated now by the schools bother you. And I'm not talking about how it would affect other sports or anything else. Does it bother you? Because there are some purists out there who say, hey, this is not the point of college sports. The point of college sports is not to be paid. It is to be an amateur athlete. But I think most of you watching this are rational, and you are perfectly fine with schools directly paying their football players. Matt says, given what has already happened, at least it's out in the open. True. Absolutely true. But, I think this does change a lot of things. I think it does change the opinions of some of you towards the college sports landscape. And I totally get that. I really, really, really do. What I would tell you, though, is I do think now that it's just there, more people will see that it really has no effect on anything directly on the field. Do I worry about all these other sports? Yeah, I do. I do. Let's go to Jordan. Well, first, let's go to Amacat. Looking back, how insane was Les Miles? I mean, honestly, Amacat, like, normally, like, when time passes, you're like, wow, Les Miles was crazy. Like, there's so many different tentacles of the Les Miles era. But the thing is that, like, normally, I know this in what you're saying, but normally it's like kind of after somebody's done, you truly realize how insane and psychopathic this guy was. But everyone viewed Les Miles that way at the time. Like, there's no like real looking back. It's like everyone knew Les Miles was crazy. The guy ate sod. There's actually a video of me somewhere eating the different version. Like I went around campus and ate different pieces of grass to taste which grass was the best tasting grass on campus. Probably the dumbest thing I've ever done. Like I was fine. I thought I was gonna go to the hospital. But it was the Indian Mounds for those that are interested. Huh? I like Les Miles is just crazy. He's just crazy. Well, that's a good question. Let's see. Once again, first $20 super chat gets a Thad Moss autograph photo in the mail. I'm shipping out a Justin Jefferson to Jordan tomorrow. I had to get some more shipping supplies. And there you go. Thaddeus Moss. First $20 super chat. Okay. My thoughts on Jaden Rashada suing Florida. Yeah, Billy Napier, this is what I would say. Florida feels pretty confident that they're going to be okay because, Billy Napier was in front of reporters saying, hey, I'm fine with everything. If they really weren't, he would have no commented the hell out of that situation. Okay? He would have no commented the hell out of it. So, say what you want about that situation. I'm glad it's not our mess, to say the least. Let's go to Ed, repping West Monroe. He says, no idea. And everybody, welcome Ed to the channel. I think this is your first time commenting. Look at Ed out in the outdoors, hanging out on a pond. That's good, man. So, or is that a lake or a stream? I don't know. I'm not really an outdoors person. But welcome, Ed. No idea why Peyton Todd is struggling at this stage. Has to be mental. I mean, the kid was a beast in high school. A beast. I have no idea. Is it health? I mean, is there something that we don't know? It's just rare for a punter that had as much hype as he did. Like, nothing. And I understand, like, Jay Bramlett coming over was unfortunate. But I believe the way it worked out was his first year wasn't Jay Bramlett's first year. I think it was actually the year before. And he got beat out by Avery Atkins, who was a really good punter, but that wasn't his thing. He was our kickoff specialist. It was Van Rosenberg, who was the punter before Avery Atkins. I'll go to Joe or Jared. Oh, okay. He said technically the colleges were already compensating them. Tuition, room and board, food, stipends. True. Absolutely true. But it just depends on your definition of compensation. Could I average 32 yards a punt? I think I was like the third or fourth emergency punter on my team. Just because I played soccer. I was not a good field goal kicker. I didn't really have that big of a leg in soccer. I was just a center midfield who passed the ball a lot. Had a few firecracker goals, but most of that wasn't really my game. But I had enough leg strength to be the emergency kicker on my team. But yeah, fun times back in the day. But could I punt the football 32 yards every time? I guess if I did one of those running like Australian rules kind of punts, maybe I could. Maybe. But I don't know. Now, like I mentioned, I had to move things up an hour. And because of that, if you have any questions in the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'll answer as many questions as I possibly can. But if you super chat, we'll keep it going. Now, I do have something very interesting to share with you. Okay. What if I told you that LSU's quarterback picture just became a little bit more clear? Because there is a developing story that LSU could have their 2027 quarterback already in the pipeline. And his name was Colton Nussmeier. Okay. One final thing on Peyton Todd. Ed shares. Todd was injured his senior season, significant foot injury. So that's probably it. But I remember there was just so much hype around him. I do remember he did, correct me on this, he did play some defense. But I might be wrong on that. It's been so long ago. But I do want to talk a little bit about Garrett's younger brother, Colton. Okay. Jared, thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate you. Okay. So, very early in the process, obviously these prospects are not even rated just yet. But Colton Nussmeier, 2027 quarterback, okay, already has a profile on 3 at on3.com. 6'3", so he's taller than Garrett, 175. Now, this is what I would tell you. Okay. Nuss short bus, except this bus is going to be long because Garrett Nussmeier, you can see it now. What if it's Garrett Nussmeier handing off the keys to Bryce Underwood or Colin Hurley or Ricky Collins, and then they hand the keys back to Nussmeier? Now that would be absolutely insane. But I'm just telling you that he is on the radar. Now, and I've known about Colton for a while now. You know, someone closer than Nussmeier has been, a big supporter of our channel. And he was like, Carter, he told me this a year ago. He sent me a chat, and he was like, dude, Garrett's son. I say Garrett's son. Garrett's brother is a hell of an athlete. Now, what I would tell you, though, is, there's no guarantees that he's going to pick LSU. However, you feel pretty good about it, right? The next thing I would say about it is there is a higher likelihood than you would like to think that Colton Nussmeier ends up just being a baseball guy, because apparently he can throw gas. Okay? So, this is where things get interesting. You take a look historically at some of the, and it's not quite nepotism, because if you're an elite recruit, you're an elite recruit. But there have been some cases where the younger brother has turned out to be very good for LSU, and there are some other cases where it's not been the case. Okay, so obviously the most famous example is Jordan Jefferson, right? It's Jordan, Ricky, and Justin. They're all really good players, and obviously Justin was transcendent. There are some cases where you wonder what the hell LSU was thinking. Justin Reed, still in the NFL, won a Super Bowl as a safety. Eric Reed's younger brother. We didn't want him. Now, the way I understood it was around that time, I think it was the Jamal Adams era. So, we had Jamal Adams. Whatever the case may be, we did not get Justin Reed. And there was also some cases where the younger brother is just not really anything. So Patrick Peterson was here. Patrick Peterson, one of the best players in college football history. And he will be a Pro Football Hall of Famer as well. Younger brother Avery Peterson was Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette, all-time great player. Can't beat him, really, when it comes to the running back position. Younger brother Leonard was getting playing time on the 2019 LSU team over Clyde Edwards-Helaire and quit midway through the season. So, say what you want. The younger brother situation has always been up and down. And look at this guy. Look at this guy. Out of nowhere. He just came in and just dropped it. Appreciate you, Van. I appreciate you. Obviously, you're one of my really good friends. So thank you. I never, ever take these big ones for granted, especially during the off season. Thank you so much. And Van, you get to pick the next topic. Go right on ahead. Go right on ahead. We'll keep this one up for a while for good reasons. Oh, man. Now, I will say, and I want to make sure I get to this. And I was going to save it towards the end anyway. All right. Van, let's talk about the collective. Let's talk about it. What specifically do you want to ask me about the collective? I will happily talk about the collective on so many different levels. Now, once again, you guys know, I am not the tip top. I almost said Adam Sandler. The Sandman. I am not I was thinking about this earlier. So Adam Sandler is like one of my favorite comics of all time. As a former stand-up, I mean, he's so good. But Adam Sandler is like someone, if you follow him on Instagram, it is the funniest Instagram account because all he does is share photos of his friends that die. And it's the saddest thing. Like, he doesn't post any content on there. It's just like, RIP. It's just so crazy. I am not Adam Schefter. I'm not Superstar Insider. But I'll share with you a lot of different thoughts on the LSU collective. Now, I highly recommend you go follow Van Lathan on Twitter because he did tweet out one of my all-time favorite LSU moments recently when, during the Les Miles era, which we were just talking about, when the referee versus South Carolina knocked out Steven Garcia for us. I think a lot of you remember that. Such an underrated moment. And it kind of gets lost because it was after the 07. I think that was in 2008. Kirsten Pittman ran too far upfield, opened up a wide open hole, and the referee took care of business for us. We need that next year. All time. I'm so glad you tweeted. That's why I follow you. Now, only thing I'll say, Van. Obviously, Van, we talk LSU football when we chat. Confessions is the best Usher album. Just wanted to put that out there. Now, we do move on. Can we not afford? Or do we just not want to play? Okay. I'll give you my honest thoughts on the collective. And it goes back to a few weeks ago. All right. I am very happy to consider myself a relatively independent thinker when it comes to LSU football. We're all LSU football fans. We all want the teams to do well. But I feel fandom can become toxic and totally delusional. And in a way, as fans, we all get delusion at times. And I totally get it. It's part of being a fan. But we have to face the realization, all right? What Josh Pate said nationally and he got attacked for saying this, was not anything different than what we have shared with you here. But he just said it, that the collective had some disorganization, our collective. And guess what? You don't need to have inside information to realize that with everything that we missed this offseason. So the truth here is we shouldn't have whiffed on all those players. And a lot of that is because of disorganization. And it might not be as much collective disorganizing, but just our overall footprint and our plan to go get transfer portal recruits. The thing about transfer portal recruiting is that it happens very quickly. It gets really hard when you are juggling multiple recruits. Pause. That sounds weird. But it's just the truth. If you are recruiting this player and then this other player is also interested in you, but you're not prioritizing him, you're rolling out the red carpet for this player, that becomes an issue. So if you don't know for sure if this player is going to take your offer at this amount, it makes it hard on your collective, makes it hard on your team, makes it hard on your overall plan of what you want your roster to look like. And that's all I was saying. All right. I will tell you, there are months that this is a lot harder to do this than other months. And I will say a month ago, after the Andy Staples interview, it was not easy on your boy. It wasn't. Like, there was a lot of people pissed off that I had him on there. And there was a lot of people pissed off around that time period. And I felt like I didn't have any hot take. I've had far hotter takes that weren't the best things to say about LSU. But that was a tough time talking about the collective. I think we can do a better job of like for instance, like Kirby and Georgia. Obviously, they are the best program, and we're trying to be like them. But they just got their shit together. You know, they just do. And I'm not saying we don't, but they have got this stuff figured out. They do. They are aggressive while at the same time being selective. Oh, Jaden Rashad is out there. Let's go get him. Yeah, we got Carson Beck, but hell, Jaden Rashada. And we get the middle finger Florida in the process. We know it's going to piss off Florida. So, you know, once again, that's not as much collective as it is just like roster stuff. But we have got to become more solidified and organized when it comes to that. Okay. I'm not asking LSU to be the deepest pockets because we aren't. All right. I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing to be known as a school with the deepest pockets. I would guess, once again, this is just a guess. I would guess it would be Texas A&M, but I don't know. Texas is definitely in that discussion as well. Honestly, if you want to talk about deepest potential pockets, Arkansas might be it with a few of the bullets down in the chamber up there with the Tysons and the Waltons and all of that. But LSU is not in a bad spot. I would tell you if I thought that they were in a bad spot. But this offseason was a little messy, and I don't think anyone would disagree with that, not only in terms of results, but in terms of what the national guys have said. So, yeah, it does concern you when you see those things, but at the same time, most of the national media loves LSU. Most of them do. Most of them do. Okay. So I think for me, LSU will be fine in terms of its collective. I also think with the changes that we talked about a little bit earlier, there's going to be so much that gets shaken up that makes you say, well, maybe collectives don't even exist. Maybe there's not even maybe that term's not even a thing anymore. Maybe it's just schools, you know, brokering all the deals for the players, or the players themselves doing the deals to get, I don't know, Blue Store Chicken, or trying to think of another, like, just Baton Rouge business. Well, Small Sliders does a lot of that, but that's not really a Baton Rouge business. And once again, call me crazy, I've still not had the Blue Store Chicken. I still have. I guess I gotta go now. That's all I ever hear about, Blue Store Chicken. Hell, I haven't had AM Mart in a while. AM Mart is the best sandwich on the planet. But then Incas. You got Incas in Baton Rouge. Their sandwiches are fire too. I ate there all the time. Now, thank you, Van, for your generosity. We'll hop on a call a little bit later. But we'll open it back up. In the next 10 to 15 minutes, I will answer as many questions as we possibly can. If you super chat, we'll keep this thing going. I also think Van's super chat, like, it was so big, like it actually topped all of our super chats for this month up to this point. So I really appreciate you. Now, I did release a video. It's kind of experimental. You know, in the off season, you try new videos out. Okay. And yesterday, I've been experimenting with this on the SEC channel, and I'll be honest, I put a lot of work into it. It flopped. It totally flopped, and it's okay. I try new video formats every offseason, but it did flop. But basically, I did this for Georgia, I did this for Tennessee, I did this for Arkansas, and I did it for LSU. I went back and graded the recruiting classes that LSU brought in that year, that Arkansas brought in that year. And for LSU, I did 2020. Now, the issue was I couldn't do LSU 2021 because they have so many players still playing. They're entering their year 4. So I did LSU's 2020 recruiting class. And what I would tell you, okay, this blows my mind. All right. And Van's a big recruiting guy. Jared's a big recruiting. Actually, Jared's not a big recruiting guy, but I think Pegasus is a big recruiting guy. For those of you that actually do like to keep up with the past classes, I like to keep up with the past classes more than I do the future classes, which is normally flip-flop for most people. If you actually run the numbers, and like the number one Guido on Instagram, I'm a numbers guy. I am too. If you actually run the numbers, the amount of bust, and bust is a strong word, I don't like using that word, but amount of guys that did not give you ROI based on their recruiting ranking was so unfreaking believably high over the past couple of years that it blows my mind. LSU defensively, when it comes to a blue chip ratio hit rate, from 2010 to 2018, I believe, they were at a 75% hit rate when they brought in a 4-star recruiter better defensively. 75%. Okay? I understand that I just train wrecked the Les Miles era based on Amy Cat's question just a minute ago. Okay? I understand that I just destroyed Les Miles. But the one thing I would say is the dude hit on a lot of the players that he recruited. He really did. Now, did he develop him as well as he would have liked? No. Did he get the production? And was he a good coach? No. But they hit on a lot of guys. How much of that is Aranda? How much of that is Chavis? I would say it's probably a little bit more than you would think, right? Because why would 75% of your 4-star or better recruits hit? And then over the past 5 years, it's been around 35-ish% of your 4-star or better players turning out to be hits. And I gave a very, very light definition of a hit. Basically, if you breathed and you played a decent amount of snaps, I considered you a success. All right. Now, obviously, things were different then than it was now. But what I want you to do is, if you did watch the 2020 recruiting deep dive that we did yesterday, I put a lot of work into it. You should go watch it. And you'll begin to see, holy crap, we really stunk up the joint. All right. And it wasn't Brian Kelly's fault, obviously, but it was crazy how many guys just did not pan out, didn't give you anything. What's interesting is, if you look at some of these other schools, they were just fine. They were just fine when it comes to blue chip hit rate. So I would take a look at those deep dives, and you'll be like, man, we really struggled. We really struggled. And it hurt. It really, really hurts if the guys that you recruit and are your 4-star recruits. It's tough. It's really, really tough. Now, what I would say is, what did that prior era have? Well, they had Dave Aranda and John Chavis, two of the best SEC defensive coordinators of the past couple of decades. What did the last 5 years have? Well, a scheme shift, Bo Pelini, first-year DC Durante Jones, and Matt House. All right. So it could just be the coaching. It could just be the scheme. I think it's a mixture of both. And I think you really, really need your coaching to get better. Okay? And it will with Blake Baker. But I'm telling you, and the full data is on Patreon, patreon.com/LSU football. I couldn't believe it. I mean, we had top 100 recruits going to Campbell, transferring to Campbell. That's a school. That is the name of a school, Campbell. They are the Camels. If you're transferring to a school named the Camels, you're probably a 2-star recruit. No, this was a top 100 recruit, and I wish him nothing but the best. And I don't even want to say his name, because it's I'm not doing this to call him out. College football's hard. It's hard for everyone. But top 100 linebacker going to Campbell, top 100 safety, transfers, changes positions, goes to running back. Like that did not exist in the prior day. I mean, yeah, there was a Clifton Garrett mixed in there, but you know, if you got Jamal Adams, you got Jamal Adams. Dante Jackson, top 100 recruit. No questions asked. Stud. Freaking stud. Freak Johnson was a 5-star can't miss recruit. Was he an ROI based on his recruiting ranking and hype? No, but he was good. I would say he was good. I understand it's hard playing college football. Doesn't matter your recruiting ranking. But gosh darn it. I mean, man. Now, I really am up against it. I'm supposed to go to a dinner here in a second, but wife texted me that it's okay if I stay on for a little bit longer. Let's keep it going. Les Miles teams were never soft, unorganized, undisciplined. Yeah, probably. But you know what's interesting is Les Miles practices, they used to do like gauntlet drills, like bull in the ring. Their practices were insane. Insane. Let's go to Chance. I thought this was interesting today. Negro League statistics will be included with the MLB stats. Love it, man. Absolutely love it. So what did I mean? If you actually go listen to like some baseball historians, they'll say like the level of baseball in those leagues were the exact same as the major leagues, which is crazy. That wouldn't shock me at all. But yeah, big day for Satchel Paige. Love it. One of my bucket list items is to go to the Negro League museum. Should be awesome. Justin says the 20 class set us back. Yes. Yeah, it did. It did. You know what and this is very anecdotal, and I tend to think these things are overvalued, but I truly do believe if your best players and recruits are your best leaders, things tend to work out a little bit better. Okay. So let's discuss. What do I mean by that? And this was one thing I didn't talk about in the recruiting deep dive from yesterday, but I'll talk about here because during a live stream setting, it is a little bit easier to talk about what I'm about to say. Leadership does matter. Okay. So in the 2019 class, your best players, your 5 stars, the guys with the most hype, were some of the most distant guys. Like Derek Stingley was the best player in that class. He was not on the leadership council, like the Ed Orgeron leadership council. He wasn't. So the 2020 class, well, who were your 5 stars? Keishawn Boutte, Elias Ricks, and Eric Gilbert. Now you had one of the best leaders you've ever had at LSU, BJ Ojolari, be a part of that class, and he was a great, great, great leader of men. Number 18 uniform. Okay. So maybe I'm overrating leadership. They had an all-time great leader in there. But overall, the best players in that class, and all 3 of those guys, 5 stars, were studs. Eric Gilbert was a stud. Elias Ricks, ridiculously good when he was at LSU. And Keyshawn was a beast. Leadership matters. It really, really, really does. Okay. 2021 class. Who were your 5 stars? Sage Ryan, who, it's not really worked out. And there were times last year when, it didn't look like he was going as hard as he possibly could. I'm being honest. And then Mason Smith, who was hurt a good portion of his career at LSU. I think Mason was a fine leader, fine player. And we saw what he could really do towards the end of the year versus Wisconsin and Texas A&M. But you notice in 2022, what happened? Well, you brought in a new coach, Brian Kelly. That matters. No doubt about it, that matters. But who came in? Will freaking Campbell. Who's been the best player in that class. Okay. Harold Perkins, 5-star defensive player. Pretty solid leader, if you ask me. Okay. I'll be honest. Emory Jones, 5-star. But not a 5-star, but top 100 4-star. Leaders. It matters. It does matter. When your best players are your best leaders, it's amazing what that can do. Joe Burrow, Tyrann Mathieu. Ask players who played with them what their leadership was like. Glenn Dorsey, sacrificing, an extra year in the pros to stay the final year to go win the Natty. You could tell that stuff meant something to him. Yeah, McCann, I guess I would have to go player by player in the 2020 class. Overall, the 2020 LSU class was good in terms of like guys that can actually play. There wasn't like and they had some real studs on there. It's just, man, it just went haywire really, really, really quick. But you know, it is what it is. You know, I'll be honest, like I've gotten a few texts about the collective and y'all's donations to the collective. And look, I'll be honest about the collective. I truly do think there are just some big changes. Like we know that the change now that like the schools will be able to directly pay the players. You're still going to need though some organization for the players that will demand even more money, right? Um, and those same schools will still rise to the top. They still will. I will take a few more here. Yeah, so Portland, interesting. One of my best buddies is playing, his final few years of college basketball there. One of my really good college friends called me out of the blue right after I got off the live stream on Sunday, and he told me he moved to Portland. And so I got to go visit. I've got to go visit Portland. Tony, what's good? Wait, y'all get Manda Boonan in Mobile? Let's go to Jared. So you went to the game on Sunday. You did. Going to Hoover. Love it. Love it. Quite a few of you went. Shout out to Kevin. He went. Once again, I'll be on AYS tomorrow at 10 a.m. Currently working on a Joe Burrow deep dive for the NFL channel. Y'all, and when I started working on this, I'm actually paying I did this for the first time. So normally I design all my thumbnails, the thing that you click. I'm just putting so much work into like this Joe Burrow NFL piece that I'm actually like really investing a lot of my own money into getting other people to help me design how I want things to look. It's interesting, like how important Joe Burrow is to the NFL. And I understand like Joe Burrow not playing last year didn't affect like the ratings. I mean, people didn't like it sucked, but everyone still watched football. There's still so many good storylines. But the fact that this guy is the only one that can stare Patrick Mahomes in the face and beat him is something. But it's something even like deeper. If you actually look at all the weird things that the NFL was trying to change over the past few years, and Joe Burrow like really changed a few of those things. It's interesting. So I'm working on this on the NFL channel. I don't know when it's going to be done. I just want to cliffhang you guys just a little bit. Like, God, could you imagine 5 straight Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes if Joe Burrow didn't exist? Like it is insane how important he is. And what's even crazier is the AFC has never had this much quarterback talent, and Mahomes still freaking wins. We need Burrow so bad. Not even LSU guy saying this. It's just the NFL needs Burrow. Ooh, Pegasus asks, Carter, what is my hottest sports take right now? Well, it's one I've actually discussed with you before. I believe every single NBA playoff game is fraudulent. Every single NBA title that has ever been decided has been fraudulent. Every single one. There's not a single one that we shouldn't look and say that's not the true champion in the NBA. And if I was on a national show and if I started a national ESPN show, they would probably fire me the day after because, the NBA playoffs make a lot of people a lot of money. And I would love the NBA playoffs. I've told you multiple times that this has been the best NBA playoffs ever. I love variety. I don't need stars. I understand. Like a lot of my biggest supporters are Lakers guys. Okay. I get it. The Lakers add so much intrigue and eyeballs to everything, especially with Braun on the team. But I love the fact that there's variety. But every single NBA playoff result, whether it's Jordan all the way back to George freaking Mikan, doesn't matter. Every single one is fraudulent. Now, it's funny. I actually have a YouTube coach. He's actually calling me right now. He's big, also a supporter. I don't think he knows I'm live right now. And he's helping me with this Joe Burrow thing. I just don't think how anyone looks at the NBA and says, look, this is how things should be done. Like, it's crazy. I feel the same way about this in the NHL, which I don't care about at all. Hockey should cease to exist. It's the only sport I'll ever be a hater about. Every other sport, sure, exists. But hockey, no, end it. I don't care how many people would be sad. End it. The world would be a better place without hockey. I don't even want to see it on the TV. Like, the only thing that makes me excited about global warming is that there will not be any more hockey rinks. Like, I can't. Just end it. End this godforsaken sport. There it is confirmation that there will never be a player better than Wayne Gretzky. We should have just stopped then. Like, he is so much better than every single hockey player. He's arguably so much better than every team sport athlete ever. Should have just ended it right there. Hockey's terrible. That's a hot sports take. Let's see. What other ones do I have in a chamber? Oh, yeah, MLB, same thing with the NBA. You can't look at the playoffs in any of those sports and say that is a righteous way to determine who the champion is. So, but going back to the NBA thing is you can't play an 82-game season and the sport be totally different. It is a totally different sport than what is played in the postseason. Every single player that has any type of NBA knowledge will tell you that the NBA postseason is totally different than the regular season. Then what is the point of the season that takes up over 70% of all games played? You're telling me that didn't matter at all? And then, like, everything is about matchups in the postseason. Everything. As someone who's watched quite a bit of the Western Conference Finals, now I am biased because I want Dallas to win really freaking badly. If any of you know me personally, you know that there is a player who I do have a personal connection to, and I want Dallas to win it all because of that. I'm a Pelicans fan, so I want the Pelicans to win no matter what. But I'm strongly cheering for the Mavericks. But I would also tell you that I don't think Dallas would have beaten Denver in a 7-game series. Denver couldn't beat Minnesota, and Minnesota couldn't beat Dallas. It's like a circular, like the recycle emoji. They're all three bad matchups for each other. That's all it came down to. It's just the timing of the matchups. There's a lot of luck involved in that. And then the NBA Finals is the only time basketball is ever played in series format. The only time. It's not done in college. It's not done in high school. It's always single game elimination. And every single basketball game you've ever played, it's single game elimination. In the actual NBA regular season, you rarely play a team back to back. Sometimes you do, but it's not how the sport is played. And as many of you know, over the course of a series, it's not So there you go. Here's AMACAP. Hockey in person is awesome. That's the same thing. It's the same damn thing I'm always told. Well, hockey in person is awesome. Okay. Well, no, I would hope it's awesome, because there would be no other way you could sell a sport being played where you can't even see the actual freaking ball or whatever you want to call it, a puck. Hell, you can't see it. You can't when you're watching on TV. You can't see it. Okay? Yeah, let's knock this dip can around. Put it in the net that is taken up by a man who is the size of the net. Stupid. Dumb sport. Come at me. Spitting chicklets, whatever hockey show you want. It's just cease to exist. Cease. I will say, the Baton Rouge hockey team, the Kingfish, I believe. I get now. Miracle, love Miracle. Why? Because it was played before Wayne Gretzky. Once again, once Wayne Gretzky hung up the cleats, there didn't need to be another hockey game to ever be played. He is so far superior to every single hockey player. Gordie Howe, Mario Lemieux, Jaromir Jagr, Chris Chelios, Patrick Waugh, all of them. The only thing that made hockey great was Barry Melrose. That's all I cared. I didn't give a single damn about hockey, but Barry Melrose made it entertaining for me. But things happen. I also want to point this out. R.I.P. Bill Walton. Sad day. I have to shout out Bill Walton, who is 10 times the athlete I ever was and 10 times the broadcaster I ever was. I think I'm crazy. Bill Walton had the best rings. But there's a few hot sports takes for you. Man, I could lay off so many, and like it's weird. So I want to be a national sports commentator so bad that I have a gazillion national sports takes, because sometimes if I'm just driving around, I will do my own sports talk show, like just driving and just talk to myself. That's why it's not a problem for me to do this. I would do 3-hour shows in South Carolina about teams I didn't even know. Just give me a microphone, I'll figure it out. One very underrated sports story of the past decade was Justin Spieth, his best golf year. When he won 2 majors and he was like second in 2 other majors. And that was ridiculous, like how good he was that year. And he lost the PGA because Patrick Day, I believe, set the course record or set the all-time PGA scoring record. So if he didn't do that, Jordan Spieth would have won that major, and then he was second. Oh, yeah, he was second in another major that went into a playoff. So it was something along those lines. We never talk about it because he kind of fell off. And he's kind of boring, went to Texas, didn't he didn't really get the juices flowing. And part of it was that same year Serena was going for the year Grand Slam, right? And she fell short in was it the U.S. Open? I think it was the U.S. Open. She won the Aussie, she won the French, and she won Wimbledon, and she needed the U.S. I think so. But That was obviously very underrated. Serena's a freaking GOAT. But the difference is the golf Grand Slam, I would argue it's harder because in tennis, you control your own destiny. You can only be beaten by the opponent. If you're a golfer, all it takes is one dude to go off, right? Like, so like Jack Nicklaus in many ways is underrated because he had 19 runner-up major finishes. He won 17 majors. He was 19 times that dude was second place. Like, that's how good he was. But obviously the golf field wasn't what it is now. It's so much better. But yeah, I mean, I think Jordan Spieth's year, whatever year that was it 2015? I don't remember. Another hot sports take, and now my wife's going to be really mad at me. But Van super chatted, so I mean, come on. Another hot sports takes. Howie Schwab is underrated. Stump the Schwab. He passed. Like I said, all the best ESPNers are just dying. Like I didn't even think about this. Yeah, there's been a tough year. Was I a big Bill Walton fan? Yes, absolutely. But man, I was a bigger Chris Mortensen fan. He dies. Obviously, Howie Schwab, who I got to know, he died. John Clayton, he died. He had a pretty nice impact on me. I met him young in my career. Stuart Scott, who is the biggest influence. Obviously, he's been dead for a while. But like all the best ESPNers, the guys that I grew up idolizing, they're dead. So it is. That's like, yeah, it does. It really, really, really does. Because this is what I do. Okay. He's still confused. Pegasus is still confused by the NBA take. Having a 7-game series gives you a true champion than ain't because you have to beat a team 4 times. Not denying that a 7-game series over the course of time will tell you who is the better team of those 2 teams. My point is a 7-game series is never how basketball was intended to be played. It's not how it's played 99% of every single person's career is never played in a 7-game series. If you played any kind of competitive basketball, 99% of basketball is not played in that format. Okay? It's not played in that format. By the way, another ESPNer, John Saunders. I know I was mentioning someone. John Saunders had a profound impact on me. Canadian. Hosted Sports Reporters. He also died. It is seared in my brain. So this was, I was working the Super Bowl for ESPN. I had a pass, but I didn't bring it with me to go into the compound like the final day that they were doing broadcasting. And John Saunders showed up to do a show. And I wanted to run back to where I was staying to go get that pass just so I can go up to him and tell him how much of an impact he had on me when I met him when I was like in 8th grade. And I wasn't able to, and he died. And I think about it all the time. I was like, man, you could have gone up to that man and said how much he meant to you. So John Saunders, man, that dude was a really, really, really good broadcaster. Just good. He was just really, really, really solid. And he died. So a lot of the best ESPNers say that they die. They do. Booyah. Now, that'll be it for me. I'm just a dude with a microphone. But I want to shout out our PHL community. Jared and Van, thank you for your super chat. I don't speak Spanish. What does Frioli's me gusta mean? Is it Bing? Is that what that? I don't know. I would still take a call. Beans, I like. There you go. Spanish, I failed Spanish 3 times while at LSU. 3 times. I didn't know it was possible, but I did. It is. Power out. LSU. Boom. And tonight, we are doing... Oh, yeah, we'll be live tomorrow at 6. Tonight, we are doing... Oh, spaghetti. Let's go. Let's go.